So both myself and Chris have worked as trainers and course writers in Microsoft SharePoint for quite a few years now. And as we've done that, we use SharePoint in our day-to-day work, and also we work with lots of different customers in all sorts of different industries, and they're using SharePoint. So we've seen lots of good and lots of bad SharePoint. So what we're going to do is run through a session today that's going to give you an idea of some of the things that we think are most important. Some people might phrase it as quick wins. So the only thing that these topics really have in common is that they're things that you can do quickly and easily within SharePoint to get real value out of SharePoint. Okay, so it's all designed to be quick and easy to do. And to make that kind of interesting, what we've done is we've done it in a bit of a versus format. So I'm going to have 5 minutes to show you a topic. Then there's an alarm going to go off. And then we're going to switch over to Chris, and he's going to have 5 minutes to show you a topic. And we're going to kind of battle back and forth a little bit. But the key thing should be these are all things that you could show to end users, and hopefully they'll get excited. Yeah, so it could be useful for you and it could be useful for your end users, but I think the 5 minutes is the key thing, so we'll go through a series of different topics. To try and keep things moving along, what we're going to do is take questions at the end of the session, because otherwise we're going to struggle with our kind of 5 minute. Yeah. Hear that?
Okay, so the whole point of this session, both myself and Rob, we had a bit of a conflict as in what we thought were the most interesting things on this. So I said, I like these features. He said, I like that. And I said, I don't actually like that. So what we're going to try and do is not so much downplay each other, which is what we traditionally do. We're going to try and sort of prove to each other what is the value from each one of these demonstrations. So it's kind of like a versus session. We're going to take turns demonstrating, so we'll keep switching places. And hopefully we'll prove to you, as well as each other, what we think are some of the best things.
You got your timer.
So, what we'll do is we'll talk about what to use and when to use it for particular functionalities. And we've got basically 5 minutes to prove it. If not, we'll have a loud alarm that will go off and keep us aware. Now, we're not piping that through the speakers, so it will be loud that we hear it, but we're not going to deafen you. It actually uses the ticking clock sound from the 24 series, so it's going to be quite distinct when it goes off. So, let's bring up the side act. So we've got our timer. It's already set to 5 minutes, and we'll just kick off a little zooming tool so that we can present to you properly. Okay, so I'll keep that off to the side. Okay. And just to let you know, we'll take questions at the end of the session because we're going to be battling it out between each other. We'll just take any questions at the end. So you've got notepads, just scribble your questions down and we'll do a Q&A session at the end of it. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, it's me up first. Again, we've got kind of a whole variety of different topics, and some of these things you might have used before, but often people kind of dismiss certain things and say, I tried it once and it didn't really work for me. So what we're going to try and do is show you the positives of these things. And then again, at the end, if there is anything that you thought, oh, it didn't work for me in a certain scenario, or will it work in a certain version, then you can jump in and ask those questions then. So for me, my first topic is the idea of working offline. So I'm going to start my timer up. There we go. So I think, for me personally, working offline is a really positive topic. There's what I guess is a relatively new idea of OneDrive. How many people use OneDrive at the minute? They're kind of offline synchronization. It's not new at all, of course, because for a long time we also had things like Workspace and Groove and Outlook, and all these things have allowed us to synchronize files from SharePoint, whether that be on-premises or in Office 365, and we could synchronize those files down to our local machines. For me, what it means is when I'm traveling around, I'm able to take files, synchronize them to my local machine. The next time I reconnect to the network or the internet, those files automatically upload again. So I use this as a good argument when I'm talking to people that are just trying to get used to SharePoint to begin with. They often say to me that they want to have the flexibility of having files on their local machines, and they intend to not use SharePoint at all, is what they often tell me to begin with as we try and win them over. So by using a synchronization tool to help synchronize between their local machine and SharePoint, it can be a first good step. So for example, for me, over here in Office 365 for today, if I head into a library that I've got some files that I created originally in here within Office 365. So if I know that tonight I'm in a hotel, I'm not willing to pay the £12.50 that the hotel want for the internet in the hotel. Anyone paid more than £12.50 a night?
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
It's kind of pretty average in London, I think, now. So for me, what I could do is I could come in, and because I'm in Office 365, I could choose to sync the files to my local machine. If you're not lucky enough to have Office 365 yet, it could be that you could use Outlook and synchronize to Outlook, and you get a sort of fairly similar experience. So let's be brave and let's try it. Office 365 Brave demos in the cloud. So if I tell it to sync and tell it to get on with it, so ask me a few times, should I sync? Should I sync now? Is it okay to sync now? Yes, please sync, please do. So what's going to happen at that point is it's going to synchronize these files down. It's going to be ever so quick. There we go. Wow, that was fairly quick. Because I'm using the newest version of this in Office 365, I get the nice green ticks that tells me that I now have a synchronized version offline. If I then pretend that I'm going to work in on the train, or on the train I don't travel first class, it's too expensive, so again I've probably got no internet. So if I disconnect from that network, then when I'm on the train I can open up Explorer View, I can go straight into SharePoint here and I can find all these files. I could go in and work on one. Again, because I've got the newest version here, it makes a pretty good job of telling me that I'm working offline. Yeah, with some of the older ones, it's not always so clear. Am I offline? Am I online? So I quite like it. Tells me you're in an offline copy. That doesn't mean that I can't change anything. So I can come in, I can change it. Again, it's telling me you're still offline. Did you know? So I always know what's going on. Some people with the older versions were nervous. They didn't know, am I up to date? Am I out of date? With the newer systems here, it's now telling me. So if I make some small changes, I can see here now that it's telling me with the icon there, the little blue circle, that I'm out of date. I have a local copy that's newer than the one on the server. So as long as the demo gods are with me today, I should be able to connect back up. And relatively quickly it's going to realise that I'm connected again back to my network. It's going to take that file and it's going to push it back up to Office 365. So that was pretty quick actually. Did you see it? Like a few seconds? Not always quite as quick as that, depending on the network. So for me, the ability to work offline, whether I'm using OneDrive or Outlook or whatever the functionality is a really positive thing. It means that for me personally, I could work on these files in hotels or wherever I am. I don't really have to keep thinking about, oh, I should upload this now I'm back in the office. As soon as I get back to the office or get my network connection, it synchronises back up. So for me, that's a good first step for people. Some people say that, oh, it's not the full SharePoint experience, but for me, if I can take some people that were telling me they weren't going to use SharePoint because it's annoying to keep uploading things, and if they can now be storing their files in SharePoint and effectively sharing them with the team, this could be a good way of winning them over. So I think in the right situation, this is a really positive thing. So believe it or not, I'm ahead of schedule.
I was really hoping that OneDrive would let him down. He would shoot over his time limit. That's so annoying. Yeah. And plus, the other thing is that what Rob is also sort of going on is that if you are pulling content from SharePoint, it's always a good practice to check it out, because we were discussing this sort of before we were doing the session today, but you might have colleagues that are also synchronizing content as well. So potentially the checkout functionality can reserve that file for you. Okay.
That was my dangerous demo. So that one worked, it synchronized, so all the other ones are a bit safer.
I've got my dangerous demo coming up, and I'm still slightly worried about it, so I'm going to stick with something that is probably quite safe. So in SharePoint 2010, we were introduced to wiki pages. These were a more sort of Word-style, page editor-style system that gave us the opportunity to type directly onto the page, create multiple pages and hyperlink them together. And one of the things that I really liked about wiki pages is not so much the amount of content that you can put on the page, which is fantastic. You have in 2013 the rendition system that allows you to upload those colossal photos which you put in SharePoint. You just see the top corner of it. So what do? You resize it, and it still takes ages to load because the picture is really large. So renditions is nice. But what I'm focusing on is actually to save you time, how to quickly create lots of pages and then have the hyperlinks pre-built into the system to help you build things like blog articles and knowledge bases. So I will put the timer on. I'm quite confident that...
That's cheating, because you just did a minute without a timer.
I was using that 30 seconds that you left over from the last session, so I was being efficient. Okay, I'll stop cheating. Although I'll probably cheat a bit later, but I'll stop cheating now. Okay, so my 5-minute timer. So, in the SharePoint 2013 environment, I've got my home page, of course. and I might want to start linking off to other pages. One of the problems is that I create multiple pages, I have to grab the URLs, copy them, go back to the original page, paste it, and start putting these pages together. Now, the other thing is that the pages must exist to be able to hyperlink them. So what I'm going to do is actually ignore that fact and start to create links to pages that don't exist yet. I'm not even going to bother creating the pages first. I know that I need a couple of links at the top of my screen to go to different sites. Now, if I use the double square brackets on the keyboard, some of you may know about the wiki links system. So if I zoom in on the page, putting in 2 square brackets is going to allow me to quickly link to any existing pages in my SharePoint site. Now that's quite useful. So if I wanted to, I've got this section on sort of like a production dashboard. So I can click on that and it's put a link in directly to that location. What if I want to link to a page that doesn't exist yet? You will not be stopped. Put in double square brackets and I want to link to a page called production support. If I put double square brackets in, it's saying the page does not exist. It doesn't matter, I'm going to create it anyway later. And then finally, you've also, if you click double square brackets, you can even go to SharePoint apps such as lists and libraries, as well as views inside those as well. So that can be quite useful. Now, sometimes you might want to create a page that has a different name in relation to what text is being displayed on the actual page. So you might want to call a page analytics.
You've not got long left.
You're trying to get me paranoid. So the page is called analytics, but what we want to do is display it as something like dashboard. So what I'll do is I'll put in a quick pipe, so shift backslash, and I'll go put in view your statistics, double square brackets, and I'm going to click save. Now the bottom link, keep an eye on it. So it's being displayed as view your statistics, but the page is called analytics. I can prove that. Now the reason it's got a dotted line beneath it is that the page has not been created yet. It says analytics doesn't exist, which is the name of the page. Do you wish to create it? I do. I click create. What's nice about this is I start typing the next page, put in double square brackets, I can immediately put in a link to my home page. If you're building a knowledge base article similar to the style of Wikipedia, this will save you lots and lots of time. So rather than creating tons of pages and then linking them together at the end, just go through one article, create the subsequent pages, link off to them. You can even display those links as different pages, and you've got them all collectively on a single page, linking across to other locations as well. So I'll create my production support page. It shouldn't take long. Well, it was actually quite realistic there, so it didn't take too long. So I like that. Because I've written a lot of support documentation for different companies, I know how long it takes to string all of this stuff together. So this has been a real time saver for different companies I've worked with to create them help and support pages that quickly link off to other pages and create that sort of knowledge-based style appearance. How am I doing? Oh. Do you want to use that? I can sell you that time if you want.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the pages are great as well. We've not added much content to that, but I think the pages are great for simple information. So rather than just using document libraries all the time, which is what a lot of people get drawn into, create pages to share simple information. So if I wanted to create graphs and charts, I'd do that in Excel probably. But if I've got simple information like names, phone numbers, contact details, I could just create that straight in the page. And we, in a conference a few years ago, we did a bit of a test and we could create pages and put simple information onto a page much quicker than we could create the equivalent Word document and upload it. Yeah, so the process was actually was quicker, it saved us time. Okay, so I do like pages actually.
So thank you for using my 1 minute 40 there, that was helpful.
So this one's a big favourite of mine, which is social. So within SharePoint since 2007, we've had quite a lot of social components. In 2013, there was a load of additional ones added as well. Tomorrow I'm doing a whole hour on social, so I can't really do it justice in just 5 minutes. But the idea of social, just to empower you with this. Do we like social at the minute? Hand up if we like social. Sort of mostly not, basically, or mostly don't care. So the idea and the reason we should care about it is that it's a way of quickly and easily sharing information across the entire organisation. So rather than using emails and sending things between individuals and no one else really knowing that it's happening, rather than putting documents into document libraries and hiding them from everyone, if we've got simple information that we want to quickly share, whether that be questions or announcements, there's a whole variety of things that work really well for social. We've got all sorts of tools to do it. So even if you're back in 2007, there were some choices there. So I'm going to demo again in 365, just focusing really on some of the newer things that are in 2013. But in the session that I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to go through all of the social options. So everything that's been available since 2007 all the way up to the 2013 and 365 stuff. I thought I did. Yeah, there we go, we're going.
Oh, you're going.
Yeah, I'm not cheating. Okay, so just a quick example of social. Let's say that there's a document that I've uploaded into this site and I want to make sure that people are aware of it. Yeah. So maybe there's one person in particular that I need to be aware of it, and then I want the team to be aware of it as well, a larger team. So what I might do from a social point of view is say, right, I've kind of done the first step, I've uploaded a document, so that's not really a social thing, that's just a document library. No one really knows it's there at the moment. Let's say it's this particular document here. What I might do is go ahead and just grab the URL of that item, and then I can go and use that URL within one of my social tools to kind of share that out. So what I could do, for example, is head up to the home page of this site, which is a kind of a high traffic area. Yeah, so lots of people are coming through that home page. Come on, Office 365, there we go. So if I take a look, one of the first things we've got on the home page here of this site is a news feed. Okay. So one of the nice social components. The idea is it's short and everyone has access to it. So let's have a quick look in here. So let's say a new booking has been placed today. So let's say we want to include a link to it. So I went and copied that URL. When I paste it in,
it's a bit busy.
It's quite a busy URL then, that's fine. I'm going to pretend that looks nice. Luckily in here I can change the display so it's a bit friendlier. So that's kind of neat. So in here, so I can call it whatever I want. It's a little bit friendlier. Also within here, part of the social stuff, we can use hashtags. So if I could say this is sales related, I can either go in and just create new hashtags on the fly and it puts them into a central database. So the next time someone else is using social and they use that hashtag, it groups those together. Part of the idea of those is that they can then be seen through search, and also you can use your news feed, so your kind of wall effectively, your social wall, to actually say, oh, I'm interested in anything that's sales team related. So all these conversations that are happening in all different places, you can say anything that relates to that, I want to see that. So I can tag for the same reasons we do in Twitter and other systems. And also in here we can @mention as well. So let's say I specifically want to make sure that Mark knows about this particular post if he's been waiting on it or chasing me for it. Rather than me just emailing him directly, I can do social, which means he'll get the email because I've mentioned him, but also anyone else in the team can actually look through the newsfeed and see, well, what's been going on recently. Yeah, so I'm using it like an announcements tool. I still like the idea of using this for questions as well. Okay, so we could post questions up there. Again, we might mention one or two people. So it's quick, it's easy to do. Sometimes people worry about who's going to police it. What if people ask questions that are too revealing? Well, if that's a negative thing, then I think that's a little bit sad, really. Hopefully, the idea of this stuff is people will post questions. If there's something they're not happy with, they will ask about it. Surely it's better for people to ask questions. So, again, within a few seconds, I've been able to go to one of the social components. Again, there's 6 or 7 in total, but I've just chosen this one newsfeed component. So what do we think? Are people excited about social now? Or still worried about what our colleagues will say if they have access to it?
So Rob also has the newsfeed app on his phone as well. So he could have sort of chucked something up there. What he might do is use that in a few seconds to throw something up as well. Which just means that evidently if he's out of the office, he can still stay up to date with what's going on as well. Hello, Benji. So this is probably not my favourite app, but just in terms of the demo that we happen to be looking at, the idea that actually from my phone I could get involved with the social stuff as well. So I think that's the way people tend to do a lot of their social interaction rather than logging into a website on their desktop. Quite often it's on your phone, it's mobile. So
So for the iPhone in this example, I'm able to go through. This is actually a slightly different account that I'm logged into to the one I was just posting to. But within here, we can post, we can view the most recent information based on what's been going on within my SharePoint.
And what I like about it is becoming easier and easier to have this remote interaction with SharePoint as well. About in 2010, you could set up things like announcements lists with email addresses, which needed the infrastructure in place at the farm level to support that. But then you assign an email address to an announcements list to create an email to send information to the announcements list remotely. It sounds great at the time, but since we moved on from them, it just sounds like a clunky way of doing it. Whereas if we have an app, we can simply send that right information in more detail with more functionality straight to that system. So sorry, I'm finishing up your demonstration for you. Okay, so what's the next one? So this is drag everything. Okay, this is fun. Now, I'm not going to say that drag everything is completely new to SharePoint 2013. Yes, it's fantastic, but back in 2010 and even in 2007, there were get out of jail free cards that I like to call. When I first started using 2007, when I worked for a retail company, Open with Explorer was my most favorite thing, because what it did is it made it look like it was a component on my computer I can drag and drop into folders. Even with SharePoint 2010, you could drag and drop, but you needed Office 2010, you upload multiple files, and then you get a window that you can drag and drop onto. And you had to show people that because it was buried in a few clicks. So in this interface, now in SharePoint 2013, not only can we drag and drop files into the system and move those files between folder structures and other libraries and drag to our desktops, but we've also got navigational features as well, which can be structured via drag and drop too. So, on the home page of my site, I'm just going to go in and corrupt one of Rob's libraries. So you're using conference bookings at the moment. Yep. I'm going to go to shared documents. And we've got some content in here at the moment. What I'll do for argument's sake is, no one likes folders, right? Okay. Rob will prove to you why you shouldn't like folders later. But effectively what we're going to do is just grab some information and place it in the system. So let me go to my desktop, got my team files, and now users don't have to call up IT support and say, how do I upload a file? Hopefully they'll get wind that you can just simply drag and drop straight into the system. Again, that's a quick win, but oddly enough, something that was intuitive back in the day, sorry, my file's empty, can't use that. We'll just do a refresh and pretend it didn't happen. But evidently back in the day...
Hang on a minute. So that message basically says you're an idiot. There's nothing in your file. You have an empty file.
There are certain scenarios that don't allow you to upload. 0 kilobyte files is one, and special characters like ampersands, colons, and other sort of characters also trip up the system as well. But we didn't see that, right? So effectively, I've just dragged and dropped. I can drag into other locations too, so I can drag into my folder structure. I can drill down into the folder structure, surface information up, and drag it into another library. Although I found that this one is a bit flaky in the way it works. What it should do is allow me to drop straight onto another library. Evidently, it doesn't want to do it today, but it does work in some scenarios. But in this case it doesn't. In regards to the navigation on the left and upper part of the screen, the left-hand navigation is fairly simple. It allows you to grab content, hide and show it, delete it, and indent and outdent to rearrange content. This could give you an opportunity to reorganize menu systems that might not be as intuitive. What most people do is they have a ton of links down the left, or none of them are outdented or organized, so it's very difficult to follow. In this scenario, I've just gone back to the way 2010 worked and put my lists and libraries and content categorized as I needed it. At the top, I've got more options though. One of my favorite things to do in 2013 is show people that they don't need a muddle of disorganized sites at the top of the screen. Evidently, what I can do is modify the navigation and start to rearrange the content. Now, I might need to go up to the top site level because we're currently inheriting the navigation. And we are at the top site level. And traditionally, I'm using the option now to manage the navigation from the top level. And back in 2010, if you had the publishing infrastructure switched on, you'd manage the navigation from here. So now, instead, I've got the opportunity to modify links. So I can create more links. Now what I like about this is the ability to create drop-down menus. So if you drag onto an existing link, you can place it in a drop-down, which I quite like. You can additionally drag links and put it in a side menu as well. Now, I may be completely corrupting Office 365 navigation for anyone using my SharePoint site, but the idea is that rather than in many clients that I've seen having tons of links across the top to different sites, you can start nesting them and then doing offset dropout menus if you want to, off the click of a button. But I'm going to click cancel because this is a live 365 site and people are using this, so I'm not going to corrupt the navigation too much. But people like to see that it's easy to modify the navigational interface these days using that functionality. So I'll just reset the interface for Rob. I don't want to throw him off his game. And that was quite well timed.
Yeah, I think that drag everything is really just a case of, it's maybe not that exciting, it's just more, it should have always worked like this. There's quite a few of these things where you just think, it should have always worked like this. It took kind of 10 years for it to get kind of to where we hoped it would be. So can't complain, much better than it was before. So yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Okay, right, probably my favourite one. So again, if we go back and we're thinking about end users, so whether it's myself as an end user trying to get value out of the system and make my life easier, or whether I'm working with a team of people or a department, a customer, quite often we have this first conversation, which is, why should we use SharePoint? Or we've bought SharePoint, what should we do with it? Which is a fun conversation to have with lots of people. So one of the things we say is, yes, we're going to use it to store files, that's great. So you can do social and these other things, but files is probably where most information is going to be stored, of course. So columns for me is going to allow me to tell the story of my documents. So let me explain that. So the idea is, and this is something that we used years ago when we ran the first conference, so going back like 7 years. The idea was, let's say here we've got these conference booking files. At the moment, if I just upload them into SharePoint, I don't really get much value from that. They might as well be on a network drive. Yeah, it actually looks like a network drive. One of the first things I can do to start adding value to this and start using it like properly as SharePoint is I can come in and I can add columns. Okay, so these columns are going to allow me to capture supporting data that further explain each of these files. Yeah, it's a very simple principle, but people often overlook this, and when they overlook it, it's because they just go, oh, we've got folders, we'll just keep using folders like on the old network drives. Yep. Okay, so for me, I'm going to tell the story of these files, and I'm going to add value to it and use it as real SharePoint. So let me show you what I mean. So if I go create a column, let's say if each of those are conference bookings, what I might want to do is just have like a yes-no field to say which of them have paid and which haven't, so that whoever's processing the bookings for the payment can keep track of what's going on. Also, anyone in the management team can look in and quickly see how many payments have we got so far, and equally how many non-payments. So it becomes like a reporting system for the management team as well. So let's have a look. So if I go paid, yes, no, I'm going to default it to no. So when things are first uploaded, they're normally not been paid for yet. Before I use that, I'm going to add one more column as well. So if I just go again, create column. Let's say as part of the each booking, also there's paperwork that needs to be sent out. So there's someone in a different team, in a different building within the organisation that has to deal with that paperwork. So when things have been added as a booking and they've been paid for, then they have to sort out the paperwork. So let's just pretend it is a physical paperwork and it's a separate process. So let's just have another one of those yes/nos. So let's go paperwork sent. The reason that I know I need these columns is that what someone started to build in the beginning, before the first conference, was an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of all this. And I looked at it and said, now that to me probably should be columns. So we did have that conversation several years ago. So what that means for me now is I can go into the datasheet view, or in this case what's now called the quick edit view. It's just the datasheet view in disguise. So we actually have the quick edit view or the datasheet view for a lot of customers as the default view. So the idea is things have been uploaded, and let's say if I'm dealing with the payments today, I can now whiz down here and say, yep, that's paid, that's paid, that's paid. And because I'm in this kind of quick edit view, I could quickly update a whole load of those. For a lot of people, that's when columns start to make sense, when you tell them about the quick edit view. If you're showing people columns and they're saying, no, I don't really get it, do I have to go and fill in the data in this properties page and then press OK, and it's kind of painful. So as soon as we show them the quick edit view there, people have to go, oh, it makes sense now, I can use that instead of folders. So, so let's say here, paperwork sent, let's just fill in a couple of those. So for me now, I've got probably two groups of people that are going to benefit from this. The people that are actually communicating between the different teams, the people that are actually dealing with the uploading the bookings, dealing with the payments, dealing with sending the paperwork. At any point, those people that are transferring information can come in here and they can see exactly what's going on. So when we're using this system, we don't send a single email internally to say, oh, there's a new payment been placed, or we've sent that paperwork out now. Whenever people have done some work, they just update the relevant metadata. Yep, so a manager can come in looking at a higher level, they can see this instantly and they can see exactly what's going on. So rather than those constant nagging, has everyone paid yet? How many's paid yet? If we give them a link to this library, they can report on it themselves, and the reporting could be really simple, right? They could come in and they could just look for everyone that's not paid yet. Okay, so for me, columns is probably the single most important thing in SharePoint. Agree? Yeah, it's got to be. And I think that's where that argument is. We can't just tell people not to use folders. We need to explain to them how in a lot of situations the columns are the newer equivalent.
I don't know if that counts as a penalty. You kind of finished and then looked at the timer like you had finished and then continued.
I think it's fine.
I don't know. Right. This is my dangerous demo. Okay. Mainly because I want to talk about OneNote. OneNote is a fantastic tool, I think very much underutilized. I started using it when I wanted to make my own notes on how to deliver a course for combined knowledge. And I thought, rather than chucking it all in Word documents, I can create sections for individual courses, create a structure for each day of the course, and do the content that I wish to discuss modularized in that structure. If I wanted to, I could do things like secure sections in a OneNote file and put passwords on certain sections that might have my passwords in, or other confidential information. And it has a great degree of SharePoint integration, but some of you might have noticed that the OneNote system also has a complementary app that you can get on various stores for various different products. So in my shared documents library, I've uploaded a OneNote file that I'm using at the moment. By using OWA, Office Web Apps, it actually renders in the browser. Now this can be quite useful for meetings. Quite often, whether we're with meetings on-site with clients or off-site with other clients, we might want to keep track of what's going on. Did anyone get their silhouette done yesterday? Yeah? Really cool. I was amazed by that. Especially when it does like the glasses. That's really awesome. So one thing that we can do is, whilst we're in a meeting, you may look like you're on your phone or your tablet, you look like you're not paying attention to the meeting at all. Someone might find that offensive, but effectively what you might be doing is making notes on OneNote. So what I'm going to do is just share this.
It's about to work, there we go.
Yeah, it's thinking about working. There we go. So this is OneNote on my mobile phone. It's just about working, but I'll leave it up there just in case it decides to actually work. So what I'm going to do is just create a quick meeting.
You can't turn your phone around, it's going to
spin. Yeah, it's going to spin, so I have to do this vertically. Session. Thank God for autocorrect. So we could do sort of smart things like has anyone used Office Lens yet? It's really cool. You take photos of whiteboards and it gets rid of the actual colouring of the whiteboard and just gives you like the meeting notes from the actual board. So I could use Office Lens. I could sort of take a picture of Rob, smile.
You said you were going to take a picture of them.
Well, I was thinking about this. I was like, if I take a picture of the audience, someone might say, no, you're not allowed to take a photo of me. So I'll play it safe. You look very happy.
You think someone might have told their wife that they were going to work and have secretly come to a conference?
Yeah, so I don't want to rat them out. That's not really very fair. So as I'm doing this, the content that I'm updating on my OneNote file on my phone is actually connected to our SharePoint environment. Now you might be saying, how does that work with our on-prem users? Effectively, if you open up the OneNote client, I've got a completely personalized OneNote file on my local computer. You can share that to a cloud service like a personal OneDrive or a work OneDrive, and then share it with other people via email address, and they get links to your OneDrive and can actually connect and collaborate. In fact, one of the things I've got like a Japan trip up here. I actually shared those with other people who were going on that trip and said to them, do you want to actually tell me what you want to do on the trip, and we'll put that into a OneNote file, and then they didn't use it. So that was the end of that story, but I thought it was useful. You got to be truthful sometimes. So here's right in the session. There's Rob, very happy. That's like a paradox, isn't it? It's Rob with Rob behind him. Okay, so that's all very well and good. And the other thing I love about OneNote is just how organised it is. Just as a quick sort of behind the scenes here, these are all of the clients that I personally work with and request additional courses from me. So if, for example, one of these clients came back to me and said, oh, we'd like another course, I know exactly what I delivered for that customer. In addition, all of the courses that I'm sort of running at the moment, the generic courses for things like Nintex Forms, Workflow, Power User, I've got all my notes here, all the little drill down sections on the right hand side, and if I have to share this with someone, I can actually just take a book and say, look, here's how you teach this part of the course, and send that across to a person, and I can do that as PDF, Word, or as a OneNote file. So I just give it to them as a OneNote file to try and encourage them to actually use OneNote. And then the amount of content that you can actually put into the product, things like inserting spreadsheets, Visio diagrams, content from your computer, scanned images, you can get a dictator, oh damn it, and then you can capture audio and video and put it straight in the session. I'm not going to count that because SharePoint and stuff. Okay, I failed on that one.
I think one of the things I have to concede there is actually I do have OneNote envy. I don't know if anyone's ever had OneNote envy. So basically, if I'm learning a topic, I just scribble on a bit of paper and throw it in the bin when I've finished scribbling, and after it's just up here, I just remember it. Whereas Chris will write down these meticulous notes. So when we're working with a customer and they go, oh, have you got any notes on this? Chris will go, yeah, I've got like 75 pages. And I'll go, no, I've not really got anything. So it's a slightly different approach, and I do have OneNote envy. So yeah, I'll definitely have to concede that one. So I have converted now, and I'm about 50% paper, 50% OneNote now. So I'm getting there.
Are you going to revoke my penalty on that?
Yeah, I'll let you have that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think OneNote on its own is good, and then with it published into a SharePoint site, just makes it even more useful. So yeah, it's a great way of storing information. It's very similar to your Pages OneNote. It's like another quick way of capturing information, so it feels similar to me.
So where Pages are more heavily audited, it's more of a free-for-all in the OneNote file. It's less structured.
Okay, right. So so I've sort of cheated a little bit for this next one. So I've gone just for the idea of share. So share is actually a button now. It is a thing you can do, whereas before it was just kind of a bit of a motto, I will share things. Now it is actually a button. So so within SharePoint 2013 and Office 365, we do now have a share button. Does anyone use that at the minute? Okay. Not many people, just one or two. Okay, so the idea is, traditionally, if I'm in a document library or a team site and I want to give one of my colleagues access to something, typically I've had to go through a process where I'd maybe need to understand security. I'd need to find my way into what generally were some quite hidden security menus. I'd see kind of drop downs with all sorts of scary sounding information in. Do you want to inherit? Do you want to make unique things? So security traditionally had been something that was kind of a little bit awkward to deal with, not just in SharePoint, but IT, it's not kind of an IT job. So so with a share button, it actually kind of creates a straight way of pressing share this with this person, and it will let me do it quickly and easily. And some of you might be thinking it's almost too easy, and that's the only scary bit. It's almost too easy now to share things. Yeah, effectively, yeah. Okay, so let. Yes, you can. So I knew you were going to say that. You were really pulling a face as soon as I started that one. Quite good with body language. That real big frown. That's what give it away. Okay.
Every time I've taught a Power End user course, it's how do I turn that off?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can turn it off. Okay.
Okay. So just to before I demo it, because it's literally you press share, and it's going to be a 30-second demo. So before I demo it, just to clarify, within SharePoint, there's lots of different work that people might be doing. So if we talk about it in a simple way of structured work versus unstructured work, this is probably the context. So if you're working as part of a project and you're working in a very structured way, and you're working with things like policies and procedures, there's contracts, things that are very process-driven that need approval, management need to work on it, and so on, then you probably don't just want to be sharing things willy-nilly. But if I'm over in my OneDrive, or if I'm doing something within my team and it's very informal, the ability for me just quickly to be able to share something can be really, really useful. Okay. It's one of those things that, again, if you're not used to it, it takes a bit of getting used to. But the key thing is, if someone wants to share something, it's quick and easy to do. It's no longer kind of a technical security process. You don't have to fill in like 4 forms just to share something with your colleague. Okay? So that's the idea. So let's say that I've got a site that only I've got access to at the moment within SharePoint. There's one document in there and I want to share it with one of my colleagues. Yep, one document. Really simple requirement, you would imagine. So the good news is, it is now easy to do in Office 365 or in SharePoint 2013. So if I head back to my conference bookings, let's say conference bookings is a fairly secure area. Most people are not allowed into there. Let's say there's someone from another department that doesn't have access to the whole library, and I just want to share this. So if I select an item, I can just hit the share button. And there's quite a few different share icons all around the ribbon. In Office 365 now, they've put a big share button here. Also, in the ... we also have a share button in here, so Microsoft seems to be pretty excited about it. There's no buttons for delete in the main ribbon, but there is one for share. There's nothing maybe there for check-in or check-out, but there is one for share. So Microsoft seem to think it's quite a cool new thing. So they've put it everywhere. So I'm going to agree with them for today. So I'm going to share. So within here, let's say that I want to share this with someone. So let's say Chris for now. I could put a message in to explain to him what's going on. Let's say I've just spoke to him so he knows what's happening. Down here I could say whether I want to email him or not. That's all fine. I could select whether he's going to be able to view or edit. So it is going to add in kind of item level permissions to let him do that. So let's say I don't really trust him much, as you can probably see. So I'm just going to let him view it. And I can share that. So he's going to receive that as an email. So it sends him the email and it gives him the appropriate permissions. And again, the only thing that's scary is it's almost too easy. So I could be on a very sleepy Friday afternoon, busy, quick, get it finished. And if I wasn't careful, I could kind of share that with anyone in my organisation without really thinking about it. So it's a great power, great responsibility one again. So you just need to be careful. Just need to be kind of careful. Because I've got 30 seconds, I'll also say that share is also a bit of a motto in SharePoint. So if at the moment you're just kind of moving into SharePoint and historically you've had different network drives for different departments and everything's quite separate. So if we said, well, sales are here, IT's here, and everyone stays in their own areas, what we should try and do when we move to SharePoint is, for a lot of companies, take it as an opportunity to say, right, by default, when you create a project site or a team site, share it with the whole organisation. So that when we start to do things like search, individuals can search across all the newest projects, all the newest policies. So it's kind of sad when we still work the old way. Right. Okay. So that was the last one anyway.
Good. I'll just add some points to what Rob was saying as he was working through that. First of all, email a link. That button in 2010 has been replaced with share. The problem was email a link back in the day. You send a link to someone, there's no guarantee they have access to that file. It's quite a pain in SharePoint. You say, look at this, I can't. Oh, I'll have to speak to the site owner to get you access. So it's kind of a bypass to that. But that share that Rob did, that was only shared straight away because I'm a site owner. Site owners can share stuff straight away. It's like a bypass for their security interface. If you're a collaborator or a visitor and you try to share something, it must then be approved by the site collection administrator. They have an interface that shows you all of the content that's being shared, whether it's the whole site or whether it's the individual items, and then that must be approved. So if you're a site owner, yes, you can share straight away. If you're not, that has to be approved. It's not a way of bypassing security. I can't go to the sales salaries documentation and go, I'm going to share that with everyone, and that goes through straight away because that'll be fun. We're not allowed to have fun, so it is audited, and you do have to approve as you go through.
Okay, so hopefully some of those things were interesting. We tried to pick just a massive variety of topics, and the only thing they all had in common was there were things that were quick to do, and hopefully if you're sat down with someone and they're saying, no, I still don't think I'm going to use SharePoint, you can say, right, I've got one more thing I could show you, then you might like it, and they might still say no, and you might go, all right, I've got one more thing. So you've got some more ammunition there in different ways of trying to win people over. That's kind of what we do all the time. We're trying to win people over for SharePoint.
Hopefully, when you say it just takes 5 minutes, hopefully we've proved that, but we did overshoot on a couple of occasions, so I do apologise.
So I think hopefully you all know already SharePoint's really versatile. So again, when you're talking to different people, you're going to choose what you tell them first. The one in the middle is something that I end up talking to. When people say, no, I still don't think I need it, it might just be they don't have those problems. Yeah, so we're showing them solutions to problems they might not have. So at the start, I said, I like to work offline. Some of you might have thought, oh no, I always have to work in the office. I'm not even allowed to unplug my network cable.
Even in the office, you have those hot desking situations where someone's not on the same computer every day. That OneDrive scenario would really help them.
True. It's always trying to be positive. So I think for some people they're saying, no, I don't need to work offline. I don't need that synchronization. And that's fine as well, but hopefully maybe the columns would work for them, or the mobile app, or hopefully there's something there that would win them over. It is great that in some of the sessions they're showing kind of the exciting things. There's exciting things going on. But for us, for the end users, it's just the useful stuff. They just want to know, will it save me time? Will it mean I don't have to remember so much stuff? Will it do things for me? So hopefully, again, this variety of topics is focused on useful. And if some of them happen to be exciting, that's just a bonus. Excellent. Right, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the smiles.